Thank you, Mr. Huffman. I appreciate your office. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll be the bad boy. I don't have any difficulty when you first pay brought before us. $27,000 is a lot of money, but it's still $93,575 short of the 118.7575 that we were given by Mr. Lee.
That's true. I think the question before us, though, is, if I'm not mistaken, is to give the Historical Society more time to raise additional funding. Is that not correct, Ms. Madam?
Most times we can use that list.
One second. We do want more time, but I really wish you would make a decision to save it or not save it so that we can write grants. Because I mean, in the state, in the condition that we're in right now, there's no possible way to get a historic preservation grant. Phyllis, you had a question?
How much time do you think, how much more time do you think we need to raise funds?
Through the rest of the year, December 31st.
Council, thank you for that answer. Correct me if I'm wrong, you would not commit at one point that if the community raised half the money for the stabilization, that we would match the other half. Is that correct? Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That's what we did. Right back when we first started this, it would be difficult for me to recommend approval for anything until that benchmark is passed. So we generally won't fund projects or approve projects that don't have a funding source, and this technically falls into that category. However, we have been giving you time in order to do that, and that, I think, is the question that's on the table tonight for the additional time. If that benchmark is met, then council will live up to its commitment for the stabilization part. At that point, a plan can be put in place, one way or the other. Council, like I said, anything that is not true. Gilmore, is that correct?
That's correct, about the 50% match. I do want to point out, following Mr. Hunt as the bad guy, is we got a commitment from the bidder for this date about the same price. I don't think the vendor's gonna hold that price, and that means we gotta go back out again. So if you're talking about until December, everybody with me? So we gotta go out to bid again. And you could have bid prices coming in, remember, first round we had like 130, you know, they could be up around there. It's doubtful that the bid price will come in lower or at the same amount that it is right now. So, I mean, you shouldn't do it, I'm just advising you.
Any other comments from council?
One thing I would like to say is that, I think one of the things that we're looking at here, they went out into the community, and I know that we have a final say so, but she put effort in it, and that's how many people want to deserve it. And we know that sometimes money is hard to come by, but then the thing is that we have been looking at it for quite a while. But then, if we extend it to December, and Ms. Ladamilk and everybody who's here, they know that we're saying, okay, if we give you another extension, you think you're gonna be able to raise the money, and just like Mr. Gilmore said, we know prices are changing, but I'm kinda sensitive on this thing, but I can feel you guys that because of his historic venture in the community, wanna be able to preserve it, and that, so that means we have to decide whether we're gonna give you another extension, and I feel that personally, we should, that's my opinion, because they are working hard to try to get it, and that, it's a part of the city, and some things don't happen overnight, and we know sometimes it takes longer for things to materialize, and we know that maybe there might be somebody out there who come up with the money, but then they know that we working with a deadline, like we don't give them up for, you understand that, and just like you just said, but the thing is that, they appealing to us, and we know that some people hold on to the money, but the idea is that it will make a beautiful place once it gets developed and redone, and personally, I feel that, we should give it to them, that's my opinion, that's how I feel.
Anyone else?
Well, that, I feel like Legacy Park is my baby, so I like your plans for that building. But, if you don't come up with your 50% by the end of the year, then I don't know whether I can support it any further. I would like to see it there, your dream, which is the city's dream also, but, and I am in favor of an extension. But how many more extensions will you need in order to reach the goal that is necessary for us to help do it? At the end of the year, you don't have a guarantee that you're gonna be able to raise it, but I'm willing to go along with the extension for one more time.
Mr. Jackson?
I could live with that.
This is not the only project that we're facing shortage of funds on. We've got several parks that went out to bid, the estimated amount, and they came back double. So there's a lot of hard choices, it's not just this one project. And then you've got to look at how many people each project will serve, what's it gonna do, big picture for the community. And each one of them got merit. So it's not just focus, it's just one project. We got to do.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Jackson if he would be in favor of an extension in this case.
I could live with one more extension.
One more extension.
Should we limit the extension to, say, November the 1st, rather than getting into the Christmas season and Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff? I don't know if you can collect very much money during this period. We could give them the final answer somewhere 1st of November, I don't know. But, you know, if going with January the 1st is the right answer or not.
Well, quite frankly, another 30 days may or may not matter from that standpoint. If we agree to go to November, my opinion would be that it should be extended for the rest to answer that particular question. In my opinion. Mr. Gilmore?
Well, my recommendation to you all is that if you're gonna agree to the extension, then there should be two conditions with it. First one is, and this may help the group here, is that you commit to proceed with the project if they are able to raise 50% of the money on the current bid. So that's what, 118,000 something divided by 2, which I think is around 50 something, $60,000. Okay, and you can give them the time frame, if you're agreeable to that, till December 31st. And the other thing I want to emphasize, being the typical manager, that 59,000 has to be in cash, not pledges, not hopes. You know, if you can get grant money, that's fine, you know, all that kind of stuff and everything. And it'd be my recommendation to you all that if you are not able to reach that figure, because it does give you, if council agrees, that gives you at least your initial deal about there's a commitment from the city. And it would also appear, you know, like we talked about before, the city may be straddled with the extra cost, but at least, you know, we'll go in and recommend to you because of the community interest in it, that you go with it. But if you don't have that amount of cash, you know, by December 31st, then my recommendation would be, that's it. Because that building is continuing to deteriorate. And, you know, we give, as a city, as an owner, we've got some exposure with that building over there.
Mr. Walker, you have not weighed in on the extension.
I'm fine, can't swear to council on this.
Consensus of council to extend it until January the first, December 31st.
Under the terms of
Under the terms of what Mr. Gilmore has outlined. That agreeable with council?
We're talking about half of 118 or half of whatever the bid is.
Half of 118.
Half of 118. Mr. Jackson? You have your extension under the conditions that Mr. Gilmore outlined. Anything further on that?
Thank you.
I have just one question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
If we're dealing with a all or nothing situation, the building, I mean, everybody in here agrees the building is salvageable. I mean, is there any reason the city wouldn't want to sell it commercially if we're doing a Hail Mary pass just to save the thing? I mean, is there any interest in anyone buying that thing instead of just tearing it down?
I don't have any knowledge to that effect. However, if it is a part and parcel of an existing piece of property that we own all the way around it, it would be included in our legacy park plans. In my opinion, I don't vote, and I'm not speaking for council, would be that we wouldn't want to cut up that particular piece of property in order to carve out anything for that or any other piece of park that we may have plans for moving forward. Council, please weigh in.
Also, isn't it true that we couldn't just agree to sell it to an individual?
We can't, it would have to be, in order to divest ourselves of any asset of the city, it's either got to be done at public auction or sealed bid. If a decision was made to divest ourselves of a piece of property, under whatever current state law requires, is that not right, Mr. Waters?
I don't, like I said, I'm not privy to all those intricacies, but I mean, the town's growing, the town's growing. You just never know. We went, my wife and I just came back from Portland, and there was a similar situation with a historical home there. And after 50 years, the house was derelict. Now, it's one of the 10 gems of that city. You just never know. You just never know what's gonna happen, and that's my only point in this.
Thank you, sir. Anything further? Thank you. Item 382 is a review of a proposal from the Houston County Board of Commissioners to participate in certain engineering tasks for St. Patrick's Drive improvements. Mr. Gilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, in your packet is information from Mr. Dunbar indicating information they got from the consulting engineer for the extension of St. Patrick's Drive. And as you can see in the packet, there is a considerable price tag involved with this. Around $111,000, something like that. The administration's recommendation to you all is, the request from the county is whether the city's interested in going 50-50 on this project, which you may remember we had talked about some of the preliminary work on that. Administration's recommendation to you all is to not participate, at least as this is structured. And the primary reasons that I'm concerned about that is, number one, there is no funding source that has been identified for this project. You may remember we had talked about that being in the T-SPLOST as a project, and the T-SPLOST vote failed, so we don't have any, and I think the manager's position is that with our own SPLOST money, we have more important projects we need to do, ourselves elsewhere in the city. The second thing which is a large concern of mine, is that, at least as far as I know, there's no confirmation from the affected property owners that they're gonna donate the right of way. And you may remember, that was one of the primary concerns or positions that the city had relative to this project. I can understand about why they may want to do some type of work to indicate to the property owners how much acreage is required and everything, but if you've had a chance to go through and take a look at it, this is basically full engineering, package and everything, and I just don't think that we should take on that obligation.
Any thoughts, council?
Well, I agree with Mr. Gilmore. The whole thing moving forward was based upon the fact that T-Splosh was going to be approved for potential funding for that, and if it wasn't approved, then it's a very expensive project, and I'm not sure why would we be going out doing this type of engineering work without any type of funding source available to us at this point in time. That's because all the, our SPOS money has already been committed for projects under the referendum as it was written, and that's for what, 6 years, 6 or 7 years, you know, so, I mean, we're a long way away from having a potential funding source unless it came from the state. I would much rather have a better understanding where the funding source is going to come from to move this project forward rather than just continue putting money into it at this point in time.
I agree.
And I agree with you 100%.
Anything further? Thank you. Item 3A3 is discuss bid results for the Calhoun Park tennis courts. Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you. Mayor and council, in your packet, plus for tomorrow, we got the bid results back for the tennis court improvements. Following up on Mr. Jackson's comment, these prices have been coming in considerably higher than what we had as our original estimate. There's also some suggestions about how we could reduce the price comparatively slightly. Would recommend to you all for your consideration from the administration that we proceed with the award of the bid. However, take into account the allowance for the saving the $16,000. Everybody see where I am on that item there? Because of the rough grade work that was done by the county. You see which one I'm talking about there?
Just item 4?
Yeah, just item. Well, I'm sorry, and 3, take out the 5, fabric.
You're going to take out the lighting as well?
No, I'm recommending to do like I said. Particularly with our heat and all that type of stuff, on the major times when the courts might not get used, it is later in the afternoon. Plus, we may have some interest from some of the school, remember there's some discussion with that, and probably advantageous that lighting.
Lee, what about the resurface and the other two? They're in bad shape.
That's in here.
It is?
Right. That was all part of the original.
Okay. I just don't see it in here.
I will go back and check and see, but that's my understanding.
Here's my question. We'll still leave the project, but can we get signed on it?
Yes.
Is, of all these recreational things, number of people concerned, is that the most
Is that the most what?
important? We've got the same situation over here for several parks.
So what would the bid be?
293,888 minus $18,000.
18,000, so he's still talking about 270,000, over $250,000.
That's correct. That we budgeted 85,000 for.
As to the point of other parks, et cetera, we hadn't committed to build any of these other parks. We committed to ultra period, and we were gonna build new courts, when we tore up the other 6 courts. Or was it 4? I think it was 6. We made a commitment that we would build a new tennis court a long time ago. We'd been better off if we'd done it then, because the prices really increased.
Help me understand why there's a disparity, because if we go with, that's gonna be almost 3 times the bid. Is it because we didn't get bid quotes, or is, I mean, it just, that seems to be somewhat excessive.
It is.
How many bids did we get, do you know?
I don't remember right offhand, I think there were 2.
That kind of number, I'd like to see a rebid myself. It just seems to be, if we had a professional, now I think we had a professional review of that at the 85,000.
Yes.
I will be in favor of rebidding it, as long as we have someone who understands construction of tennis courts, look at the specifications to make sure we're asking for the right thing.
Yeah, I don't
think that's what you just said, but
I don't want somebody to go out there and just pour asphalt.
No, that's right.
And looking at what has already been done to it, I am very curious as to why it jumped to the level that it jumped to. I would really like to see it go back out to bid.
I would too. I think it's outrageous.
Yeah, I think, personally, I think rebid it, and as the mayor has discussed, make sure that we have people that understand what's going to be done, and I think that, we have solicit some help getting that done.
to make sure that the bid specifications are in line with what we're not only expecting, but
And we're not trying to build a Wilmington, or whatever it is, a place in London.
that's the consensus of council.
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't. Any other issues or questions, Mr. Gilmore?
No, just procedurally, this will be on your agenda for tomorrow, so you'll need to reject the bids and go back out to bid because of high increase over your budget.
What was the, have we gotten a bid prior to this?
Yeah, cost estimate.
We had a cost
Okay,
estimate,
what was the cost estimate?
it's $85,000.
Who gave us that cost estimate?
It was the consulting design engineers who did tennis courts for Bacon Pit.
I know it's been a little time elapsed, but I still, we didn't control it. If we cut everything that you have mentioned out, it'd still be high.
Yes.
It'd be twice the bid, even without lighting. Crazy.
I'm making myself a note on tomorrow night's agenda. Council's direction to reject the bid is correct. That is the consensus of council.
Right, that's right.
You still have stuff to vote.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Make sure I got it right. Anything further? Thank you. Item 3A4, consider deposit requirement for utility customers. Mr. Gilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, currently, if you come in and sign up for utility, we do not require a deposit. This was, we used to way back when, but we took that out when we followed the standard process. For example, the Georgia Power at Nassau County, there is an activation fee. However, I am recommending to you all, if you are agreeable, that we do require a deposit from a customer if that, not initially, but if that customer has had their account cut off 4 times within the previous 24 consecutive billing periods. And if they do that, my original thought was we would just say it could be a customer. But then I could hear the city attorney's office howl and scream about it. We can't legally do that, okay? So in lieu of that, do recommend to you all that if it's that type of circumstance, then the deposit would be equal to 1.5 times whatever their monthly average is. And this deposit will only be required for those customers that fall into this certain set of circumstances.
I have two. I have a comment and a question. I remember back when we took off the requirement for the deposit, for the reasons that you had stated, was there not anything else? Was there not some, I don't want to say case law, but something, maybe I'm thinking about something else, came up where we couldn't require a deposit? Am I thinking about something different? Do y'all remember?
Maybe remember something.
I'm not familiar where we couldn't. I know administratively recommended to you to take it off
Take it
because
off.
all the other corresponding utilities were not
We're not doing it.
taking the
Okay.
deposit.
Okay, my second, but basically, assuming the council wants to move forward, my suggestion would be that would be at any collective address. For example, if someone rents an apartment in spot A and then has it cut off twice and then moves across town and has it cut off 3 times somewhere else, that counts. It's a collect, it's not one location, it's customer based and not location based.
Runs with the customer.
Yes.
Very good suggestion.
Y'all understand what I'm saying? So,
My complaint, my concern is that, since we're coming up with this, that we need to really inform the people, like, but I want to appointments to get more, that, because we know people can get out of hand, buying called cheap linen, but the concept is, that, the concept is, my thing is, we need to really inform the people, you know, like you said, we're coming up with right now, I don't know, we put it on the bill, a lot of times people won't even look at the bill, but somehow they need to know, once we get it out there, and it shows that we got it out there. If they come back and start, part of that meeting, final grade, Ms. Walker, Mr. Williams, Mr. Riley, the concept is that we gotta make sure that this information, you know, is present to them.
I would suggest that each time they're cut off,
They give
as
us
they
a
cut
notice.
back on, they're given notice that this is gonna happen and so
Good,
forth.
good point.
And where they are.
I like that.
I also would like for this to be in part of the information given to all new customers.
Right.
That this is the policy of the city. And we give them something anyway, and it would do, that would be added to it.
I agree with everything else here, but I have a question. In the office over there, isn't there a place that they can also post this
Yes.
for
Yes,
information purposes?
and on the website.
And also with our new policy, I'm sure that's gonna be one of the things that when you come in, 1 o'clock in the water, you can make sure that you get that in the end. This is what, this our new system, it's not working, and take a look at it, you know what I mean, so that they'll know what's going on with them, because I think that's one of the things that we really have to do, because we're moving now, and things are changing, and we want to keep our customers up to par of what we're doing. So nobody comes in, oh, I don't know, y'all to tell me. I
Make
ain't
sure you know where Ms. Bound Great lives.
That's what I'm talking about.
Do we not have a policy about charge for cut off and cut back on?
Yes. That's another one of the issues that, you know, folks have seen, they just wind up falling further and further in the hole on this type of stuff. But we will be sure to do that. However, no matter what we do as I'm sitting here, you're still going to get calls.
That's a good excuse now, they just won't file.
Consensus to move forward with this policy.
Yes.
As amended. Anything further?
Yes, sir.
Great. Item 3B is the Fire and Emergency Services Department. 3B1 is the Fire Department's future planning.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, in your board pack, you've got the same PowerPoint that I'm gonna have up here on the screen. You can look at either one, but I'll point out some things on here. What I've done is I've talked a little bit with the manager about this, and just for you to consider for future planning and how we do things with the county. So what you see here is a map of the kind of the northeast part of the city, and if you look, so over here is where our fire station number 2 is, Davis Farm Station. Come out across Langston Road, if they went up all the way to Lake Joy, they would bypass fire station number 5 with Houston County, which is about right here. They're getting ready to move down the road and build a brand new station, and I'll talk about that a little more.
It's the same station though, right?
Yes, it'll be the same number, yes, sir. So this is our Wooden Eagle subdivision, and then of course up here we have Mossy Creek Middle School, and the proposed subdivision that I'll mention again here. So basically, the current situation, I said that the Perry service area extends through unincorporated Houston County. So Perry Fire Department apparatus, if we go to an area in that northeast quadrant up there, we're having to pass right by fire station number 5. So they could wave at us as we go by, go into a call, pass them into our area. They currently have one firefighter there 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and only use volunteers on the weekends.
But do the volunteers man it during 24/7, or do they just call?
They're responding from home. Their future plan, once they build the new station, is to have 2 firefighters there 24/7 and still maintain their volunteers, but there will be 2 guys there every day with their apparatus. So again, just the thought here that's going to initiate conversation is someday somebody's going to ask the question, why did it take Perry Fire Department so long to get there when there was a fire station right down the road? Because the citizens won't know or don't pay attention that it's a Houston County fire station and fire truck, and they'll wonder why ours took so long to get there when theirs could have been quicker. So basically, looking at this, here's their proposed site right here in this colored in area on Lake Joy Road. And this is the area that we're going to here at Mossy Creek for Wooden Eagle subdivision. Looking at this from Google Maps, currently from fire station number 2, 150 Commodore Drive, it's going to take us about 8 minutes to get all the way to 200 Danny Carpenter Drive, which is the address for the school. And that's assuming traffic is good, and that's kind of based on normal traffic. That school currently valued at about $14 million, 660 plus student and faculty in that structure there, those structures. If we were to be in the area of 430 Lake Joy Road, which is about the area of the new fire station with Houston County, we're looking at about a 2-minute response, or 1.4 miles. So here's kind of my concept, or what I'm thinking of, that I'd like for y'all to maybe consider for future planning. Of course, we can meet with the county fire chief and discuss the plans and opportunities to share resources. And that would also, I'm sure, entail mayor and council talking with your counterparts with the county. But what I've asked them is permission to place 2 firefighters and apparatus at their station. Our firefighters would share all duties and participate in joint training. Now, this would require additional firefighters for the city of Perry when that time comes. And no apparatus expense, because we could initially utilize our reserve pumper that we currently have. The idea being that Perry Fire Department crew would answer calls in the Perry service area, and the Houston County Fire crews would answer calls in the Houston County service area. So we're not really stepping on each other as far as the response goes. However, if we had a fire, let's say at the school or Wooden Eagle subdivision or anywhere in our response area, we would automatically ask for mutual aid at that point and ask the county to roll with us. Same thing, they would probably do something similar. If there was a fire down the road, they only have 2 people, we've got 2, that gives them a crew of 4 to respond to that fire as a mutual aid call. as opposed to automatic aid or having to, you know, pay for each other's services, that kind of thing. But that's something, you know, we can look at as well later on, however you guys would want to approach that. And I knew you would ask the question, well, how much do we respond up there now? Well, in the last year, from last July till the end of June, we responded to 38 EMS calls in that area, 2 structure fires, and 10 false alarms. Looking at the Mossy Meadows subdivision, they're looking at adding, or that area that was recently before the board here, or before the council, adding 233 building lots. And then Wood and Eagle has just now issued all the permits they're gonna have for their subdivision to be complete, which was 27 more permits that they put out there. So that's kind of what we're looking at as far as a population in that area of the city as it continues to grow.
Go back, how would you respond to your EMS? Are you saying you're gonna run your EMS out of there too? And you're gonna run it on your pumper?
Yes, so those 2 people on that pumper would respond EMS calls as well.
Just for our service area.
For our service area, that's right.
For the corporate limits of the city, not our service, excuse me.
Right.
Let's make sure there's a clear distinction on that.
Yeah. The area we currently service there now as far as where we respond to.
But typically, on those EMS, you would send your EMS truck, would you not, though?
Yes,
With
sir.
your 2 guys on it?
Yes, sir. Currently, a rescue out of Station 2 would respond all the way up there. Again, it's gonna take them about close to that 8-minute response there to get all the way up there. So, and I'm not gonna bore you with reading all this, but basically, there are several departments in the metro area currently doing the same kind of thing. They're using each other's fire stations to respond out of, typically at no cost to the other department. It's just, you know, they're providing services for each other. Sandy Springs shares the station with Roswell, and Sandy Springs also shares the station with City of Atlanta. Actually, 2 stations with Atlanta. And then Milton, the City of Milton and the City of Alpharetta share a station. And this was a quote from the fire chief. He said they respond to incidents in Alpharetta under their automatic aid agreement. The closest unit responds. They said there's no fee or compensation for the fire truck or staff at the station. They share all duties, and all they do is furnish their bedding and lockers and the Wi-Fi for the station. And then the whole reason I brought it up anyway is we did this when I was in Forsyth County. We shared a station with Dawson County while we were getting a new station built, and it worked seamless for us. But that was the agreement the 2 agencies had, is what made it work. And so the reason I bring it up is just to spark some of that conversation. And then the last thing I put in here was another slide that shows something we could consider also is we need to, and the area grows, in the southwest portion of the city, we have Houston County Station 8 on Moss Oaks Road down here. And of course, we're building up in the Perry Preserve subdivision here in the area around the fairgrounds as well. So just to spark some thought and something.
One of the recommendations, and I'm not sure you were here at the time, was to service that area, because I don't think that station's in very good repair. Number 8.
And it's totally volunteer, isn't it?
Yes.
I think they have people there now from like 7 in the morning until midnight, maybe 5 days a week. But it's not 24/7, but they do have some people there during the day.
There was some discussion with the highway patrol, since they have the barracks and everything out there where they're located, is put one of our vehicles there along with the staffing at that location to serve the fairgrounds and all, put them closer. So that's another option you should look at there as well.
Yeah, as far as, you know, ISO goes or anything like that, we're well within the 5-mile road area going to the Perry Parkway or Perry Preserve. I think it's about 3.1 miles, but the way you have to drive, according to the Google Maps, it's about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that could be a little problem, but just food for thought, and yes, sir, we could definitely think about using that if GSP would agree to that.
They seem to be agreeable when we were talking to them before about it.
Now, I know we've discussed it for responses during the fair, that kind of thing, using it as a staging point. So,
Chief, I just have a couple of comments. One, you know, the average response time is for the county when they respond to their singular service outside of city limits, without us. And secondly, you know the number of recurrent residents that this will affect for both us, including the expected 233, assuming all that gets built out, or that particular build out, the history of building everything out of time. And I know this is for the future. And then for the same thing would be true in any of the other locations. What I envision is if we were to agree to this there, then there could possibly be a request from the county to house maybe a unit and some of their people at our Davis Farm Station in order to cover the unincorporated areas, because that area is growing too.
Yes, sir, I thought about that as well.
So the unintended, that's not an unintended consequence, that's not the right word. But setting a future precedent for that, I want to make sure that we've thought this through, not just for these areas. And I'm not saying I'm for or against it, but I want to make sure that we take into account the analysis of the people covered and the response times on both sides from that. I'm all in favor of the joint training, because if we ever respond in either the period corporate limits for a structure fire with another unit, or we respond with them, then I'm assuming that you're gonna have policies, or so who's gonna be in charge, and that type thing. And I want to make sure that the level of training and backup for each one of us is as close as we can get from that standpoint on their side and ours, and that will help everybody. And that, does that make sense? Now, all of that may not make a hell of a beans difference, but at least if we go through the analytics of these are the numbers, look at the data from that, and if the data justifies it, then that's further cause to maybe move forward with what you're talking about.
Well, I'll keep looking at the data and kind of study that, get some information from the county as well. But I just wanted y'all to be aware that in case you get asked a question by your counterparts of the county at some meeting you go to, and they ask, hey, why aren't we doing this? And you say, well, we've already talked about it, but we're still gathering information.
I think we need to also be very sensitive to the appearance of what's going on, because if I'm living out there and paying the Perry fire fee, and I see the Perry truck roll across the street in Royal Oaks, I'm gonna have a question about, wait a minute, I'm paying a fire fee for that service, but they're rolling to the county, so I'm paying for county services. And that'll happen. I can assure you that's gonna happen.
Well, the same thing will be true if the county shows up the head of our unit in the period corporate limits for a structure fire.
And what am I paying for? And so, it's just, it's a visual that we need to really think about.
But I think they would want somebody there quick as opposed to waiting a long time. That would be, when the person needs the help, they want
Yeah,
to.
it's not them that's gonna question it, it's gonna be the neighbor.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody will be happy and somebody will not be happy.
When I need help, I don't care who shows up, just help.
Exactly.
But you know, I think, as I said earlier, I think as this is a future initiative, and I still think that information has to be put in place, no matter what Mr. Randall said, that people need to know what's going on. Because like I said, everybody's gonna be curious if something happens on either side, but they need to know. And like I said, as we come closer and closer to developing or projecting this, we need to start getting information so people know what's going on. Because we don't want nobody to be blindsided and say, well, y'all doing this here, ain't nobody told nobody, and this ain't happening. So we wanna be, otherwise, proactive, you know what I mean? So we can make sure things are moving like they're supposed to be, if we decide to go this way.
They're still paying for your Davis Farm Station out of that fire. You don't believe that?
We think.
It was paid for out of the SPLOST. What's real and what's perceived are different.
There you go.
I'm just gonna say thank you. Gee, any other?
You don't have any bricks in your pocket, do you?
I don't have any bricks, no, sir.
When are we gonna combine the fire departments, county, city? 3 cities and county?
But are we gonna combine them?
Right after the police department combined with the sheriff, with the sheriff's department. There ain't nobody in this room be alive then, I promise.
I don't never wanna see that person.
Taxpayers going to demand one day.
Efficiency in government? Really?
What we talked about before is the county's gonna have to ante up a bunch of money for that to occur. Because all the city folks are paying, for that extra protection, the county's not, so.
The county just has so much unincorporated area south of here, and they're not gonna, not something to fund,
There's a lot that goes into that. The perceived level of service is different. Know what I said, perceived?
I think we got the best service.
I agree. I agree. Wholeheartedly.
And we ought to charge for it too.
Any other questions from Chief?
Yeah, anything else?
Thank you, Chief
Yes,
Carter.
sir. Thank you.
Appreciate the information.
You can tell we never talked about this before.
Item 3C is the Community Development Department. 3C1 is the acceptance of the new violation notice format. Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, at the last work session, we talked about a number of violation-related issues. Take one task around, please.
Thank you.
One of the items that we discussed and council agreed to was shortening the time that we give someone to address a violation. As I mentioned before, we were issuing 2 courtesy letters prior to issuing the actual violation notice. I put in your board pack two draft letters with 2 different items, trying to look at how to do a letter that tells someone you're in violation, but call us and let's talk about it. But then also give them a little stick that says, if you don't, here's what could happen. And what we've been doing is putting the actual language in the ordinance in there as a violation. And as you can see with the items that are on the board pack, that gets rather lengthy. It's a lot of verbiage that most people probably aren't going to read. This top letter, and just so you know, the letter on the second page of what I handed out is the format that the InterGov software will be using. So that's why I wanted to put that in there. I wanted to try to create a letter that's going to fit with that format. What I was thinking though is there a way that we can identify in this violation notice what generally the violation is without having to go into all the verbiage to make it a little friendlier to read or to understand, but give them a reference to the actual code section if they're going to go look at that code. I didn't see anything in chapter 19 or in any other section of the city code, and I tried to look at the state code. I don't see anything in there that says that you have to give them the actual language in the notice. But I think as long as we reference the actual language and state the section number and what it generally is saying. For example, in this letter that I gave you, on the top, we require lawns and other properties adjacent to residential to be maintained at less than 8 inches in height. That's the general requirement, but if you put the whole section in there, it's like 8 lines. Is that something that is more customer friendly or not? And just wanted to get your thoughts on the overall layout and language of the
Council.
I think it's easier for most people to understand.
You just handed out.
This is very easy to understand.
My only comment, and this might be counterproductive, and I know why it's in there, that there's a line in both letters that says, in the last sentence of the second paragraph, the court may impose a fine of $500 per day plus court costs. I understand that is meant to motivate people to do things, but we have no idea what the court will do.
And that's why I said they may. I didn't want to say they will.
No, they can't.
They have to have the ability.
I don't know if people are gonna read that today.
Well, I don't, I understand what you're trying to do, but that one sentence would really tick me off from that standpoint. And now, and I say that in the vein of trying to convey the message without a big stick.
Right.
I think you
From that standpoint.
hit it false, just leave the $500 off $74 million, impose a fine plus court costs.
Or a significant fine.
Okay.
It just, you can leave it in there, just say that the court may impose a significant fine plus court. That would be my only suggestion is to change.
Doesn't say the court is, it just says they
They
have.
have the option.
Okay. All right, well, we will make those changes and, yeah, staff evaluations, starting tomorrow. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Has Mr. Waters reviewed that?
He has not, and I
Okay.
just,
Would you make
yeah.
sure that he at least peruses
Yes.
that and make sure that we're still
Yeah.
within? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Thanks. Mr. Gilmore, anything else under item 3 for item review and discussion? No, sir. Thank you. Item 4, council member items. Mr. Jackson. Mr. Walker. No. Ms. Bynum Grace. Mr. King. Mr. Hunt. Mr. Gilmore.
No, sir.
Mr. Smith.
No, sir.
Mr. Waters. Very good. I have 2 things. I handed out, before you, 2 things, or Ms. Warren did. A copy of a notice that we got from the Georgia Department of Transportation for the approved the State Highway Newark route system revisions in the city of Erie and Haskell County for State Route 11BU and routes 341 and 341BY. We asked for that, about rerouting some things, and that's positive news. They approved it. At the bottom line of that, that's a letter stated. So the second one has to do with a notice that we have received from our city attorney regarding annexation. We talked about that earlier. If you would, I'd just bring those 2 letters to your attention unless someone has any questions regarding that. It's provided for information. Item 5 is department head staff items. We'll start with Department of Finance and Administration. Thank you. Anything further from Fire and Emergency Services, Chief Parker?
Yes, sir. Just real quick, Mayor and Mayor and Council, reminder that this weekend, Saturday at 10 a.m., we'll have the fire department push-in ceremony. I hope to see as many of you there as can make that. And even if it does have some rain, we'll probably move it inside so we can still do everything kind of like we want to. And I could give you a sneak peek for tomorrow night. I have with me here tonight the new fire marshal, effective tomorrow. I was going to say captain, but he will be our new fire marshal. And so we're glad to have him on board taking that role. And we'll be introducing him tomorrow night with his family here as well.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And my condolences.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Chief. Couldn't even wait till tomorrow.
I can't. I'm gonna say the same thing tomorrow night.
Thick skin.
Oh, yes.
Glad to have you on board in that capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
What was that date, Saturday, what,
Saturday, July 21st, this Saturday coming up,
what time,
10 a.m.
where?
Headquarters fire station next door.
Thank you.
Anything further, Chief?
That's it, sir.
Sir, Police Department, Chief Lynn.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Mayor and Council, we've got 2 things. One of them is I'd sent an email invite to y'all. We did active shooter training last Tuesday for about half the department. We did at Perry High School. It was well received. A lot of good feedback on it. We didn't use, simunitions or any kind of actual weapons that, shoot. It's more philosophy and tactics and movement and, how to respond under the law and under our regulations, you know, our rules. And it was very well received. We're gonna do it again tomorrow. Just like last time, y'all are welcome to come. We'll put you in the stack if you want to, or you can just watch, you know, but, it runs about all day, so at least till 4 o'clock. So if you got a minute to stop by and want to say, hey, that's great, and if you don't, that's fine too.
Still at Perry High?
It's still at Perry High School, yes, sir.
What time does it start in the morning, Chief?
8,
8?
yes, sir. The other thing, which I wanted to mention for y'all's consideration, this is fairly unusual, but we had Clay County Sheriff's Department, which is a small county in southwest Georgia. I didn't even recognize any of the cities in Clay County, but it's somewhere on the way to the Gulf in you know, Florida. They use the same car outfitter that we do, and so they were at the car outfitter. We had one of our vehicles that's about to be declared surplus being stripped of essential equipment that we reuse on new cars. And anyway, he asked for our contact information, and he has asked if the city of Perry will agree to sell that vehicle to him to use for his new school resource officer. So for y'all's consideration, it is in the process of being declared surplus, and so that's it. I don't know what else needs to happen procedurally.
Is this for the county or one of the cities?
It's for the Sheriff's Department in Clay
Sheriff's
County,
Department in Clay County.
and I think it's like a 4 or 5 deputy department counting the sheriff. It's a small place, but they tell me it's a really nice place. So, having never been there, I had to take the word for it.
Have we not done this before with adjoining counties?
We have, in fact, with adjoining counties, the mayor and council has agreed to just transfer title in the past. They brought an offer to us to buy the vehicle. That's why I say it's unusual. We haven't had that since I've been here. You know, some have gone to various places, Guardian Center, Pulaski County, Central Georgia Technical College, maybe somewhere else, but those are the ones I remember. Pulaski County did, yes, sir, before the election for the current sheriff, that's all I remember. I'm not sure when that was. I guess 2+ years ago, probably.
Mr. Gilmore? Any thoughts?
I think it'd be an excellent idea, but I think you ought to donate it.
I would agree.
Like you did, don't get into the deal about,
I would agree.
because then you run into, well, somebody else would have, or whatever the case may be.
That'll make the sheriff very.
You have every legal right, the intergovernmental rights and everything, just say, yes, you can.
My suggestion was get it surplus as fast as you can and then let them have it.
I got the letter right here, I'll do it in this game. So, yeah, and I'll call the sheriff tomorrow and say, sorry, we can't sell it to you. However, we can give it to you. I think you'd be real happy. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Smith, anything from economic development?
No, sir.
You, community development, Mr. Wood.
I'll just mention that Mr. King was interviewed this afternoon by WGXA, I believe, on the improvements on Lane Street. So just be watching whatever station that is for that to show up. It was, I think he did an excellent job on his interview.
Just cure me.
Very good.
Otherwise, I don't have anything else.
That sounds good. From the office of city clerk, Ms. Warren,
Nothing, sir.
you? Got it, just about everybody, isn't it? Our next meeting is tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. The pre-council meeting is held in the conference room upstairs at 5. We have our regularly scheduled council meeting in this room at 6. Every meeting we have is open to the public. I welcome you all the time. And if there's nothing else to come before us, thank you for your interest and participation.